Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join this webinar. Here at Current, we're really excited to announce the release of our MYOB integration. So alongside Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage Business Cloud, Current now links to the top 4 cloud accounting softwares in the Australian and New Zealand markets. We do have some new faces in this session today that haven't seen Current before. And so for the first portion of this session, I'm going to give an overview of our key features. So once we've shown how to get all of your customers, suppliers, and labor contacts into the system, how we can get all of our products into the system, we're then going to take a look at how that all comes together when we're building quotes and orders. And once we've taken a look at all of that, we'll then look at invoicing processes, and we will provide a deep dive on how the MYOB integration works. For those of you that don't know Current RMS, we have 2,500 businesses across the world that use Current to manage the availability of all of their equipment and their quote and order processes. And these are the 3 main industries that Current is built for, but we do have lots of other industries outside of these 3 main ones as well. So the main thing that all of our customers have is a centralized warehouse where they store equipment. And again, it's about managing that availability as it's going out the door, as it's coming back in, and managing the charging for that as well. So if I head into the system here, this is what Current RMS looks like. The first question you may have here is, how do I actually access Current RMS? So on our website, which is just current-rms.com, you can sign up for a 30-day free trial. And when you do that, you will have what we call a subdomain or a system name. So mine is called IAV, but this could be your company name or whatever you want to call it, really. And you would just head to that .current-rms.com to get through to your system. When you first sign up, you can just bookmark it in the top of your browser so that it's super easy to access it from there. But the great thing about Current is that it is completely cloud-based, meaning that you can access this even if you're out on site setting an event up. You can pull this up on a mobile phone, and this is exactly what it looks like on a mobile. So it does have the look and feel of an app, as you can see. But when we first get into the system, the first page we're going to see here is our dashboard. And this is the key information going on within our business today. So in the top left-hand corner, we've got the status of our different jobs here. We'll talk about these a little bit more later on. But what we also do have is the order value or your revenue figure for the month in the top right-hand corner. It is worth noting, though, that you can have different user accounts with different restrictions. So say if you've got somebody in your warehouse that doesn't need to see financial information, you can turn that off against their particular user account. But as we move down here, we've then just got tiles from across the system, and you can choose what tiles you want to see on this dashboard. But what we have is upcoming orders with shortages. So that is where we have an event or a rental coming up where we have an overbooking of equipment. So we either have the same piece of equipment on 2 different jobs happening at the same time, or maybe we just don't own it at all and we need to temporarily get it in from another rental company to fulfill that shortfall. So this will highlight it on your main page, but it will also show it on every page where it's relevant, whether that is the product screen, your availability screens, or the job screen itself. We also do have overdue returns, which can be used perhaps for our customers that do a lot of dry rentals, where the end date of the rental has passed, but we haven't actually returned the equipment back into our system yet. So maybe we need to bill the client for an extended rental, or maybe we need to just give them a phone call to say, we need our equipment back. So it's a reminder mechanism. As we move up here, we then have transport today. So what deliveries and collections do we need to get out of the warehouse? You can even see this in a timeline view at the bottom as well. So if you ever do need to click into an order at the last minute to maybe pull up a delivery document or a warehouse document, very, very easy to do from that screen. So that is essentially the dashboard. Moving on from here, what we then have is people and organizations at the top. And this is essentially your address book. So this is where you can store organizations, which are any customers or suppliers you may have. We also have contacts here. So that can be any individuals that belong to customers. So say if you're dealing with a large corporate organization, you can put in the individual employees from that organization as contacts to link them back. But also contacts can be used for freelancers or labor. So if you want to drag and drop different labor jobs onto different freelancers, you can do that very easily through Current RMS, and we'll show you that a little bit later on. We've then got venues, which are just simply where your events take place. So in terms of getting this address book all filled in and ready to go, the first thing that we do have here as well is with our accounting integrations, you can actually go into system setup, integrations, and say if I click into my MYOB integration, what we actually have the capability to do here is import all of your customers and suppliers from MYOB. So if they're in your accounts package already, it's a simple click of the button, and that will then just bring them all over to Current RMS with the information for you. But any extra information that you need to get into the system, we can do that via a spreadsheet import. And if you ever do need the spreadsheet import templates with all of the column headings, feel free just to pop up on the green help bubble or email help@current-rms.com, and we'll be happy to provide those to you. This does everything you would expect an address book to do. So what I'm going to move on to next is the equipment side of things. So that is found within resources here, and we can click into products from here. So this is going to show me all of the different pieces of equipment that I rent or sell within my system. Of course, this is my demonstration system, so I've got quite a range of products in here, which is why it's important to be able to categorize. So we've got product groups here, which are our high-level categories. So you can see here, I've got audio, I've got furniture, I've got lighting, I've got marquees and tents. It is worth noting, by the way, you can set these categories up exactly how you want. But say if I click into audio because it's my top group, what I can also do here is I can use tags to subcategorize. So say if I wanted to go from audio specifically into speakers, let's just say, it's very, very easy to narrow down your view across a range of products by categorizing and then subcategorizing even further. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click into an individual product just to show you what this looks like within Current RMS. And the first thing you'll notice down this right-hand side is the availability breakdown as of today. So just to break down these numbers, we own 44 of these MacBooks. We've currently got 4 in the quarantine. So that is how many are damaged or lost. So it temporarily puts them to one side until you decide what you want to do with them. So say if you've got a screen that's damaged here, later on you may fix that screen, it'll go back into availability, and then it will take one out of the quarantine and put it back into the available number. From there, we've got how many are booked out onto jobs. So the 44 minus those 10 unavailable there leaves us with 34 available as of today. So whilst it's quite nice to know what we've got right now, what we can also do is scroll down and we can see the calendar availability down this right-hand side. And the great thing about this is you can then see the days of the week at the top, but you'll notice that these availability figures will change over time as things start to go out onto events and as things start to come back. And underneath here, you can see exactly what jobs the product has been booked out onto. And underneath here, some of our AV, lighting, and broadcast companies may choose to barcode their equipment, where they will have individual barcode numbers for each asset that they own. And so if they're doing that, you can even scan out barcodes, and that will allow us to see from this view that Mac 014 is on this particular job, whereas Mac 21 is on this particular one. So it's very, very detailed in the way it does track availability. You can even get this down to an hour-by-hour breakdown if you really want to. But just heading back into the product, what I also did want to do is just focus on some of the key sections of this product page. So we do have rates, which is where you set up how you want to charge for the product. So in this example, I'm charging $90 a day in my demo system, but it is worth noting that we've got many different rate definitions like daily, a 3-day week rate, weekly, hourly, but you can also create your own custom rate definitions. So the system can accommodate near enough any way you do charge for your products. And job by job, you can then select what prices you want to charge. So we can move this up in price, down in price. We can set package prices for the entire job. So I'll show you all of that once we start building out a quote. What we also do have here is supplier costs. So if you do regularly sub-rent equipment, you can have your go-to suppliers listed there and how much it will cost you to sub-rent from them. We've got stock levels here. And so this is where we can tell the system how many of the products we have. So just to go back to the beginning with that, when we create a product in Current RMS, it will ask you for a stock method here. And so this essentially means how much detail do you want to track this product by? So if we have something that is a bulk stock item, for example, I know this banquet table is a bulk stock item. So if I click into this, this is where we can just type in a quantity and say, I have 320 of these. So you'll see under my stock level section here, that's exactly what I've done. I've just typed in a quantity. So that can be used, let's say, for anything that you just want to track in simple terms. But also, if you're an AV company, this may be used for things like cables that you don't want to individually barcode. However, if you wanted to barcode your high value items, you can do this by serializing. And so rather than me typing in, I have 44 as a quantity, what we're doing instead is adding an individual asset number or barcode number for each item that we own. In terms of doing that, we have automatic asset numbering where you can set up a predefined sequence and the system will automatically generate barcodes based on that sequence. But also, what we do have is barcode labels down the right-hand side as well. So once you've actually set up all of your individual barcodes here, like I said, they can be set up using the sequencing via imports, or you can create them one by one just by clicking add a new stock level and just either typing them or scanning them into the system. But once you've actually got those barcodes listed there, we've got our barcode label document here as well. And this is going to generate a unique barcode for each asset number that we have. And of course, this will have your logo, your addresses on here, and it will look exactly how you want. So that's taking a look at how we can enter in quantities or barcode numbers. And then finally, I did just want to show you accessories. So this is where we can create kits and packages by linking products together. So say this MacBook Pro always goes out with a charger. It is worth noting that these items that are listed here, they are still outright products within Current RMS with their own availability figures. The reason why is hypothetically, if we've got enough laptops, but not enough chargers, the system's still going to highlight the shortage of chargers to us. But from here, we've got a few different options. We've got mandatory. So that means that it's vital to the package. It's automatically added, but job by job, we can't delete it off because it is vital. Default is automatically added, but we can swap it out or delete it off job by job if we need to. And then optional, it's not automatically added, but you can add it job by job if you want to. The other options we have here, by the way, is accessories and components. And this determines whether these accessory items show up on customer-facing paperwork like quotes and invoices. So if you want them to always show, set them as an accessory. If you want to hide them from customer-facing paperwork, maybe it's because you've got a massive speaker system that goes out with lots of different components, such as like cables. You might have zero price cables, set them up as components, and it will actually only show them on internal documents like warehouse documents and delivery notes, but it will hide it off quotes and invoices. Try and keep the quotes nice and concise with just the chargeable items on there for you. So essentially, that is how we can set up our products. It's just a case of giving your products a name, setting the category it belongs to. Is it bulk or serialized? Is it rental or sale? And then from there, you can enter in your quantities and you're ready to go with that. It is worth noting again, you can add things one by one in the top right-hand corner, but we also do provide spreadsheet templates to you. So say if you've got more than 50 products to get into the system, it probably is quicker to do it via a spreadsheet import. So if you do want those import templates, let's say help@current-rms.com, or hop upon this green help bubble in the bottom right-hand corner, and our team will be happy to provide those to you. So moving on from the product side of things, what I wanted to show you next is how we can start building quotes and bookings within the system. And that takes place within the opportunity section here. So the reason why we use the term opportunities, by the way, is because we have 4 different stages of the opportunity within Current RMS. You might not use all of these stages, but it's just good for everyone to know what they are. So at the inquiry stage, you can't actually add any equipment or labor onto the job at that point. What it's used for is, say if somebody gives you a promising phone call about a potential event, you can log that in your system so that you're not losing sight of it. And you can even generate reports like this in the system, if I can find it real quick, where you can then have, say if I've got 9 open inquiries in my system, I can then filter this by revenue and sort this by rating as well. So say if I've only got time to make 1 phone call, this might be the phone call that I made, because the rating could be how interested they are, and the revenue is the predicted revenue for the job. So of course, I'm going to probably ring this customer first, as opposed to any of the others that are on this list. Moving on from that, what we then have is the draft stage. At this point, you can start adding items on. but we're not really checking availability or pricing up the job at this point. So this is used quite heavily by our wedding rental companies, because they might say here you're getting 50 chairs with white chair covers, and then the client may come back and say we only need 40 chairs and we want the chair covers to be in gold. So it's more of a consultation around what the items on the job are actually going to be. But from there, what we then got is the quotation stage. So that is the more detailed proposal with pricing. We can check availability. We can send off that proposal document to our customer. And once they accept it, it then goes over to the order stage. And that's where we're looking at the warehouse side of things, as well as invoicing from there as well. So what I've done here is I've created a pre-made quote within my system, where if I click into this, you can see I've got all of the different items that are needed for this particular job, and I've got some labor at the bottom here as well. But in terms of just going back into building this quote, so when you first click create a quote, it's going to bring up this page here, and all we need to enter in is the name, the organization, so that is the customer for the job. As we move down, we've then got the dates. So in terms of these dates here, the start date and the end dates should incorporate all of the days you want your products to be unavailable. So even though this might be an event that only takes place over 3 days, say, for example, if there's a 6-day process where we're prepping it in the warehouse, it's getting set up once it goes to the event, and then we're de-prepping it afterwards, what we want to do is make sure that start date and end date incorporates all of the days you want everything to be unavailable. And then what we can do is use chargeable days to tell the system how many days we want to charge for here. So if we only want to charge for the 3 days that the actual items are in use, so they're at the event, put that in there, and then the system's only going to charge for 3 days, despite it being out for 6. Underneath there, what we then have is the delivery address or the venue where this event is taking place, or the rental's taking place. And that's all we need really to pencil in this quotation. So from there, we can start adding items by using this picker just above the items list. And so you can see I've already pre-built stuff, but say if I go into here and I go into my audio group, what this is going to do is it's going to allow me to start adding in items from this list. So again, what we can also see at the top here is quantity available, but also quantity quoted for, which is really nice because at this quotation stage, there's actually 2 mini stages within this. There's provisional, where the equipment isn't taken out of availability, but you still can see that it's on a provisional quote. But we do have reserved quotes where you do actually take the equipment out of availability, even though it is at the quotation stage. So we leave that decision up to our customers so that they can essentially decide whether they want at the quote stage things to be taken out or not. But the reason why this is quite nice is because we can then see here, we've got 2 of these on a provisional quote, but we've only got 1 available. So once this gets over to a confirmed order, I'm expecting this Q sub to be unavailable. But once we've actually built out this quote, it's worth noting as well that you can even rename groups. So if you wanted to say what's going in room 1, what's going in room 2, you can do that. You can drag and drop things to put them in different groups. And in terms of changing quantities, prices, discounts, you can literally click into all of these to change them. And in terms of discounts, you can either discount something by an individual line item by percentage. You can, of course, change the base price, but you can also set percentages across the entire job just by clicking on this and setting a percentage. Or we can use deal price in here as well, which is where you can set a package price for the entire job or per group as well. So say if my customer comes back to me and says, I only have a $10,000 budget for this particular event, and we say, okay, we'll do it for you, we can actually go to deal price in here, set the price of that. And what this is going to do is it's going to set that package price for the entire event there as well. So like I said, there's a lot of nice features around pricing up the job the exact way that you want it to work. And once we are relatively happy with this quote, the next step is to send this off to the customer. And we can do this just by scrolling down, and we have the quotation layouts down this right-hand side. We do have 7 default quotation layouts in Current RMS that show the information in different ways. But we also have a configurable layout where you can essentially tick on and tick off boxes to add and remove columns and bits of information. So you can essentially create a customized quote without even needing to dive into any coding of the document, which is really nice. But these quotes here, they will have your logo, your addresses on there. This particular one has line item breakdown of pricing. We've got ones here that have group prices with images on. We've got group prices with group headings. So as you can see here, they're all shown in different ways. So you can take a look at those default ones, see what you think. But we also do offer an additional document customization service if you ever do want us to actually look at the document and make changes for you as well. In terms of sending this off to the customer, we can either print it, we can download it as a PDF and send it from our own email, or we can email this directly out of Current RMS as what we call a discussion. The great thing about discussions is that they work exactly like an email, but all the communication will be stored back against the quotation or order, so that say if I'm on annual leave next week, somebody can just pick up from where I left off. But these discussion templates can also have predefined messages in them where it all automatically has the customer's name, any sort of text that you have within here. But most importantly, in terms of how the customer receives the quote, it can either be a PDF attachment to the email or a link that they can click on to go and sign for the document online. So if I just quickly show you that online signature tool, that is what we call the approval URL. And if I open this up and just share this with you, this is exactly what the customer will see when they open up that quote. So they'll have the option to accept, decline, or comment. Whenever they do any of those three things, it will automatically send an email to all users that either created that job or are participants to let them know something updated here. But from here, the person can leave their signature, and that will then go onto the bottom of the document. It will date and timestamp it and leave their name. And if I just go back into the system and share my screen back with you, if I refresh this, what this is going to do is let me know this quotation has been accepted. We can see the automated email that is sent to me to let me know that that has been accepted. But also we can see some key information here, such as when we printed off that quote, when we last viewed it. So say, for example, we sent a quote off a week ago and we last viewed it yesterday. We know that that customer is still interested in that because they're still clicking on that link. They're still viewing the quotation. But also, if you ever do need to look back at the quotation document to see what was accepted, you can click onto that and you can see everything, including the signature there as well. So assuming you're happy with everything that has been accepted there, you can convert this over to an order down the right-hand side to say this is now a confirmed booking within our system. And as we expected here, once we get to that confirmed order stage, it takes everything out of availability. So we've immediately got a problem area that we need to look at. So whenever we have a problem area, we recommend clicking on the arrow here and jumping into the calendar availability. The reason why we do this is because we can see the full breakdown of this product. So we can see how many we own, how many we've got booked onto jobs at the moment, and then how many are in the quarantine. So I might look at this view and say, right, we've got 4 in the quarantine, so can we fix one of them? Because if we can fix just one of them, it solves our availability problem. Or we might look at our different jobs down here and say, can we juggle something back from another job a day early? So there are ways that you can maneuver this so that you're not having to spend money on renting this in from another company. So we can see what we can do in-house. However, if it's completely out of your hands, what we can do here is click on the arrow. We can edit this. We can tell the system that we're sub-renting this in. Who are we sub-renting this from? So we can put in the supplier's name, the quantity we're sub-renting, so we only need 1, and then the cost price here. So say, for example, if we're charging our customer $500 a day, but it's actually costing us $400 to get it from a supplier, we can put that in there, update the item. And what you'll see here is that it's cleared up my shortage. It's indicated of the 2 on the job, 1 of them is coming from a sub-rented supplier, but also all of those costs will go into the revenue and costs of the job so that you can work out your predicted profit. And if you ever do need to, by the way, you can go into the cost view and you can even just simply tick a box, create a purchase order, and here is my supplier facing document that I can send off to them to say, these are the dates I need that piece of equipment for. This is what I want to pay for it. And this is the amount. So it's very, very easy to create supplier facing documents directly from that view as well. But now we're looking at a confirmed order. The last thing that I just want to show you on this screen is the warehouse process. And so we can do that in one of two ways. You can either generate a document down this right-hand side, like a picking list. So again, you can rename these documents to like a pull sheet or whatever you want to call them. But this is essentially a warehouse document with your quantities on there. Again, we can customize these so that they've got tick boxes on them and whatever you may need. But also, a lot of our AV event production broadcast companies, they will use this detail view to start scanning barcodes out of the warehouse. And so how this particular view works is our warehouse team would take a look. Let's just use this top line as an example. And they would say, right, we need 2 E3 speakers for this job. However, there could be 20 different ones sat on our warehouse shelf. So at the moment, the system's saying it's 2 of any 20. We're not sure which ones yet. However, our warehouse team would walk up to the bay that those speakers are in, pick up the ones that are going out, and then just scan the barcode. And so rather than that being 1 of 20, we know now it's specifically barcode number 13. We do have prepare here, which is an extra optional step, but this could be used when the asset's been loaded onto a delivery vehicle. So if it gets damaged beyond that point, we're looking at the driver for accountability of that damage. Whereas book out is when it's actually at the event or in the hands of the customer. So again, if it gets damaged beyond this point, we're looking at the customer for accountability of that damage. So whilst we can scan barcodes, a lot of our wedding rental companies or companies that are maybe not at the size of needing barcode scanning, you can just use these tick boxes here where you can literally tick the box and just book everything out to say everything has gone to the event. And once things are booked out, what we then have is check in when things are coming back to us. So again, if you are barcoding your equipment, it might be very important to scan to check in. And the great thing about this, by the way, is if something is missing, you'll very easily be able to identify it because that red booked out status will stand out in amongst the sea of blue. And if something is missing, you can even click on the arrow here and individually return things as damaged or lost. So we're expecting 2 cables to come back. Let's just say only 1 came back, 1 was lost. We can tell the system that, and that's going to pick up one of those cables and put it in my quarantine so that all of my availability figures are being kept accurate moving forward. What I'm going to do just for the purposes of today is just check everything else back in. And the final step here is to finalize the check-in. And this is us date and timestamping when the equipment actually came back, because we're expecting this to come back at 5 p.m. on the 11th. However, say if it comes back a day early and it comes back on the 10th instead of the 11th, we can tell the system that, and then all of this stock will go back into availability a day early for you so that it can go straight out onto another job if you wanted it to. So we can finalize that. And that's essentially how we can complete a job from an operational point of view in terms of your products. It's also worth noting that I did add some labor onto this job as well. And so if you ever wanted to take a look at the labor module of Current RMS, we can provide training on that as well. But essentially you would say, right, we need a technician or whatever's needed from a labor point of view. And we have the resource planner here where it's essentially a calendar overview of all of your different freelancers here. So say if I only wanted to see my lighting engineers and I wanted to move that over to Wednesday, we can see all of my different lighting engineers, but you can see that that lighting engineer that I added to this job, it appears at the bottom of the page because I told the system I need one, but I haven't actually dropped it onto a specific person yet. And what you can do here is you can drag and drop this onto specific people to say, I want that to be Matthew, or I want that to be Sean, whoever it may be. And you can then send a document out to them. They can then come back to you and say, yep, I'm available to do that. And once you confirm them, it will change them from orange to green on this view. So you can then keep a track over who said yes to doing a certain labor job and who hasn't replied yet. So that is pretty much everything operationally on a job that I wanted to show you. The last thing that I wanted to show through this is the invoicing side of things. And this is where we're going to take a look at the MYOB integration here. So just to show you how you would use this, using this normally, and then afterwards, I'm going to show you how you actually set up the integration as well. So when we are looking to invoice an opportunity at the order stage, it's just a case of scrolling down and we have the ability to invoice it down this right-hand side. So if I click on this, it's going to ask me here, how much detail do you want on your invoice? So do you want full line item pricing? you want just group totals? So that would split that down to like audio, lighting, and crew, or room 1, room 2, depending on how you set up your groups. And then also you can just choose to have one big total for the entire job. So that's essentially the level of detail. But also what we've got here is your standard invoice. So that's your full 100% invoice. But then what we also do have is part invoices. So say if I took a 25% deposit before the event got started, I can just type in 25%, or I could just type in $5,000, for example. And then at the end of the job, you can raise a final invoice, which is just the outstanding amount minus what we've already taken as a part invoice. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to raise an itemized full 100% invoice here. So if I do this, it initially creates a draft invoice. So if we look at this and there's something we've missed here, maybe we forgot to add a delivery charge on or whatever it may be, you can still add things on, you can still edit things, you can still delete things. You can still delete the entire invoice if you want to. So it is still a draft at this point. The next step from here, though, once you've looked over this invoice and you're happy with it, we can then issue it down the right-hand side. And this is where it doesn't send it to the customer, but what it's doing here is it's giving an invoice number and confirming that we are happy with this invoice at this point. And so when you're using the MYOB integration in your day-to-day life, all you need to do next is just click Post Invoice. And what this is going to do is it's going to pick up this invoice and just move it straight over to MYOB for us. So you can see there that it's loading in the background, and then it's going to give us a confirmation as soon as that's gone over to MYOB. So it's been posted over successfully. And as you can see there, it's now just straight over into MYOB, ready to go. And if I click into my invoices here and I just refresh my MYOB, what we should hopefully see here, oh, there we go, I was thinking about it, is it's now popped up with that invoice. So we've got invoice number 3444. It's just straight over here, ready to go for us. And we can even click into this. And this will give us the full information here. So we can see all of the items are on there. So we've got the E3 speaker, the flight case, which correlates to everything that we've got within here, as you can see. But what you can also do, which I'm going to talk about in the setup of this integration, is you can direct revenue into different account codes within MYOB. So say, for example, if you had your rental revenue going to a rental account, maybe you've got sales revenue going into sales, labor revenue going into labor, you can set all of this up using the integration. But in terms of how you actually send out an invoice, by the way, you can either send this out using the invoice document down the right-hand side. So the reason why people may look to use this in Current RMS is because it has bank details at the bottom. So if you take payments via bank transfer, the documents here are very, very customizable. But for our customers that take payments via like credit cards or whatever it may be, you can actually send an invoice directly from MYOB with a Pay Now button, where the customer will then click on that and enter in their card details from there. So that is essentially how this works, is you can post invoices straight over, and hopefully this will reduce the manual data entry of having to actually put all of your invoices from Current RMS into MYOB. So essentially Current manages all of your quoting, all of your orders, your stock availability, and then it will go over to MYOB to then reconcile those invoice payments for you. So just to show you how the integration works from the back end, so when you're first looking to set up the MYOB integration, you'll go into System Setup here. We can go into Integrations. And by the way, what I'm showing you today with MYOB, it's also applicable to Xero, QuickBooks, and Sage. So the integrations do work in a very similar way. But we will then click into MYOB. And what it will ask me to do here is log into my MYOB account. So my system's already linked up to my MYOB account, but it will literally pop up here and say log in to MYOB. Once you've done that, you can log in, you can enable the integration. As I mentioned before, you can pull your customers from MYOB straight into Current RMS. And then as we move down here, the first thing I want to talk about is revenue groups. And this is where we can direct revenue into different codes within MYOB. So say, for example, if I do want to separate out revenue, this is how I can set it up, where against my labor, say, for example, if I go into my services here and I just go into that lighting technician that I was talking about, what we may want to do here is actually set this up so the revenue group is labor. So once we've set that up, when we go into the integration, the system will say, right, that particular service has the revenue group labor. So we're going to attribute the revenue from that into labor revenue, for example. So that's all this revenue groups mappings is doing. It's just putting it into certain codes within MYOB. It is worth noting, if everything just goes into one code, you can literally just fill this out as the general code that you send all of your revenue to. From there, what we've then got is tax rate mapping. So this is pretty straightforward. It's just your GST tax rate will go into your GST tax in MYOB. And then anything that's exempt may go into GST free, for example. So that's pretty easy to set up. And then also we do need to fill in these options here. So just to go through these for you, we have the default account code. So the default account code, the system will use this account code if it doesn't know where to post the revenue to. So say, for example, if on the invoice, when we were looking at that, instead of doing an itemized invoice, let's say you're doing a group invoice, but in that group, there is products and also labor with different codes and revenue groups against them. In that situation, the system will just put it to the default account code because it doesn't know where, because it will be one big group price. It doesn't know where to attribute that revenue to. So that's what the default account code is. It's essentially the code that the system will use if it doesn't know where to post the revenue to. The same thing with the tax code. So if the system doesn't know what tax to charge based on your taxation rules, it will just default to this code. So for the vast majority of you, I expect that will be just the GST code. And then also we've got the deposit account code. So Current RMS does provide you the ability to log payments from Current RMS's side when you receive them. So say, for example, if you receive a payment via bank transfer, you can actually go into an invoice within Current RMS. Let me just see if I've got this set up. And as you can see here, there's a take payment option, and this is where you can log payments essentially as you receive them. So you can say, I've received payments via bank transfer. And once you've done that, essentially, this is where the system will then put that payment to via that bank transfer. So it's essentially the bank account or the fund account that you want any logged payments to go to within your MYOB. So if I just quickly click into this and just show you that, you can see here that I've got kind of like bank accounts and fund accounts within here, and that is what that is used for. The other options we've got down here, by the way, is do you want zero value items to go over to MYOB? So in that situation where I had a speaker system with lots of zero price cables, if I don't want those zero price cables to go over to MYOB, leave this as no, and it will only post over items that have a charge against them. But also, do you want to create an MYOB contact when creating an organization in Current RMS? Because once you've got everything linked up here, Current RMS is going to be your master system. So when you create new customers within the system, do you want them to automatically be created in MYOB? So essentially what that does is it saves you from going back into your MYOB system to double enter data, which is really nice. So like I said, that is essentially the start to finish run through of how we can start building jobs, how we can get things out of the warehouse, but also how we can then invoice, set up MYOB and post payments over to MYOB. There is also reports. So there's lots of information Current is taking in the background for you guys as well. So we can see things like revenue by customer. We can see revenue by product. This is quite nice because you can even date range these reports and you can say, what are my best revenue products as of a given time period? Moving down, we've also got, for example, sub-rental reports. So if you find yourself sub-renting equipment multiple times throughout a year, you might actually make a strategic decision to buy it in instead of spending lots of money on renting it in from other companies. You can see the never rented or sold report. So in a given time period, what hasn't gone out? So are we better off just selling it off, buying something that's better used, or maybe putting a marketing campaign around getting it out? Or what we have here is the what's out where report. So that's literally everything that's currently out on rental or on a job, who's got it and whereabouts it is. So yeah, that is me giving you guys a general overview of the system. For those of you that are looking for the next steps with Current RMS, so what I would recommend doing is going to our website, which is current-rms.com. In the top right-hand corner, we've got the 30-day free trial. So you can sign up for that without your card. You can just sign up, give it a go. But it does work like a Netflix subscription. So if you like the look of the system, you can treat the 30-day trial as if it is your own products, your own business. And then you can, at the end of it, you can just put your card detail in and it will move you over to a rolling monthly subscription from there. But also we do offer free one-to-one sessions as well. So from this particular webinar, you may have specific questions that you'd like answering. And if you want to book in a Zoom session where we sit down, we share screens and we talk over any questions or any training needs that you may have, you can literally click book a demo, select a date and time that's good for you, and we will meet you on the other side. But overall, I really do appreciate everybody taking the time to have a look at this webinar. I hope it was helpful. And for those of you that have been waiting for the MYOB integration, I hope it works very well for your business. Like I said, we put a lot of effort into getting this up and running. And if there's anything else we can help with, please email help@current-rms.com or pop up on the green help bubble, and we will always be happy to assist you with anything that you do need. All right, thank you very much, guys. I hope you all have a great day.